In the heart of Umuokiri, where the river speaks and the trees still listen, a girl vanished, and returned as something the village had never seen. This is the story of Mariah, the girl who became the river. If this is your first time in our channel, please subscribe to enjoy our amazing videos. The people of Umuokiri believed the river had a spirit, a goddess, old and powerful. They called her Mirioma, and they feared her as much as they worshipped her. Children were warned never to cry by the riverbank. Women tied white wrappers when they fetched water. And no one dared disrespect the water's flow. Mariah had once danced beside that river. She was just 15, full of light. Her skin shimmered like roasted palm kernels, and her eyes were warm and curious. When her mother was alive, they said Mariah could call birds with her songs. The palm trees would sway when she clapped her hands. Even the village elders smiled when she passed. But after her mother died from a fever that no herbalist could explain, everything changed. Mariah's father, Chief Nadazi, remarried a woman from outside the village. No one knew her people. She came from Oyo, they said, or maybe Benin. Her name was Serafina, and her beauty was sharp, almost dangerous. Her voice could freeze a lizard mid-run. And when she moved into the compound, even the goats avoided her path. Mariah began to shrink. She no longer sang. She stopped playing by the river. Her voice became quiet, her laughter swallowed by the mud walls of their compound. Something was wrong, but no one spoke. Not in a village where silence keeps secrets safer than words. Then, one market day, she vanished. Her father claimed she ran away. But Mama Adiku, the old widow who sold roasted maize by the roadside, saw Serafina walking back from the river at dawn, alone, with wet feet. Days later, fishermen pulled something strange from Omamiri, a fish with glowing eyes. Not just eyes. Human eyes. Eyes that seemed to recognize the faces looking back. Then Baba Esh, the half-mad herbalist, came screaming down the village square. She is still alive. The river has kept her. Her spirit is not gone, only changed. People laughed at him. Until the night the fish started crying. And that was just the beginning. In Umuokiri, the elders say not all beauty is a blessing. Some are disguises. Masks worn by those who come from beneath the earth, or across forgotten rivers. Serafina wore her mask well, until the river began to speak. Serafina had always moved like the wind, quiet, swift, and impossible to catch. But there was one thing the villagers noticed, once the whispers began. She cast no shadow. At first, no one paid attention. But children saw it first. The twins, Ikena and Igioma, swore that when she passed by their mother's stall, her reflection did not follow her in the puddles. Old Papa Yuzo, who carved masks by the shrine, muttered one evening, "That woman de waka like say son no am." The villagers laughed. Nervous laughter. But laughter turned to fear when the fish returned. It was a full moon night when fishermen caught the same glowing-eyed fish again. Its scales shimmered with strange markings, symbols only seen on sacred masks. When they brought it to the square, the fish flopped violently, then spoke. Not with words. But in a voice that wasn't a voice, a cry, like a young girl screaming underwater. Everyone ran. Except Mama Ojeki, the oldest woman in Umuokiri, who stood frozen, tears in her eyes. "That is Mariah," she whispered. "Her spirit cries for justice." The next morning, strange things began to happen. The compound's coconut tree, the one planted by Mariah's late mother, withered overnight. Chief Nadazi began to cough blood, his eyes sunken, unable to sleep. And Serafina grew stronger. She glided around the house with unnatural grace. Her skin glowed like polished wood. Her eyes sparkled like fireflies. Some said they saw her talking to the river at midnight, her voice low, speaking in a tongue no one could name. Then came the first vision. Young Neka, a girl of only 10, collapsed by the river and began to convulse. When she awoke, she said, "Mariah was pushed into the river." But the water did not swallow her. It changed her. She's waiting. She's watching. And she is not alone. The priest of the village shrine, Dibia Okonkwo, was called immediately. When he heard the girl's words, he paled. "That river is not ordinary," he said. "If Serafina has tampered with the child's soul, we must act, before the curse spreads to the entire bloodline." But they were already too late. The curse had begun. A child was taken. A soul was changed. But the river does not forgive, and it never forgets. Now, it demands payment from every hand that watched in silence. Chief Nadazi hadn't left his hut in 2 days. His eyes were sunken, his voice broken. The once powerful man who led Umuokiri with pride now lay curled on a raffia mat, muttering the same phrase over and over. "I should have stopped her. I should have listened to Mariah." He was burning from within. Not with fever, but something else, a guilt that rotted him from the soul out. Dibia Okonkwo tried to cleanse him with herbs, chants, and white chalk, but every night at midnight, Chief would wake up screaming. "Fish! She's watching me. Her eyes. Her eyes are still human." Meanwhile, Serafina sat on the veranda like nothing was wrong. She wore white every day now. Pure, unwrinkled, ceremonial white. Her skin glistened unnaturally, and her presence was beginning to shift the energy of the entire compound. Plants around her door stopped growing. Roosters avoided her side of the yard. Even flies circled and left. But the most terrifying thing? She smiled more often. Mama Ojeki gathered the village women. They met secretly by the shrine, under the old Irako tree. "This is no ordinary madness," she said. "Serafina is not who she claims to be. And that girl, that poor girl, she's become a spirit bound to the water. If we do not break the bond, the curse will pass to all of us." Some were afraid to speak, but one woman, Adeabi, Mariah's aunt, stepped forward. "Let's call her spirit back." Gasps filled the circle. Calling back a spirit, especially one transformed, was dangerous. If the spirit had grown vengeful, it could strike. If the bond to the water was strong, it could drown the summoner's own soul. Still, they had no choice. At midnight, under a moonless sky, they began the ritual. They lit 7 oil lamps in a circle, poured river water into a clay pot, and placed Mariah's old wrapper, faded but scented with her childhood, at the center. They called her name 3 times. "Mariah. Mariah. Mariah." At first, there was only silence. Then, the water in the clay pot began to bubble. The lamps flickered. And in the smoke, a faint figure appeared, a girl with soaked braids and glowing eyes, her mouth moving but no sound escaping. Her hand reached forward, pointing to something behind them. The women turned around. Serafina stood at the edge of the clearing, barefoot, watching them. Her eyes gleamed, and when she smiled, her teeth were no longer fully human. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "Now you've woken things that even the river fears." She turned, and vanished into the night. Before Umuokiri, before the fish with human eyes, there was a woman born of salt, raised by the current, and sent to steal a soul. It was Dibia Okonkwo who uncovered the truth. After the failed summoning ritual, he returned to his shrine and began searching the ancient scrolls of the river, parchments handed down by his grandfather, containing forbidden stories not meant for common ears. There, buried in brittle palm leaf pages, he found it. A story older than Umuokiri. Older than the river's name. Beware the daughters of Ikanwanyi, the serpent goddess of forgotten waters. They walk like women. They love like women. But they are not women. They are called muomiri, water spirits in disguise. And when they take a child, it is to complete a dark binding. One soul to the river. One soul for their immortality. Serafina wasn't human. She was a daughter of the deep, a Mami Wada, but not the beautiful, benevolent ones people left offerings for. She belonged to an ancient line of spirits banished from sacred waters centuries ago. Their crime? Envy. They envied human love. Human families. Human life. But to truly walk the earth, they needed to bond their essence with a soul of pure innocence. A girl. A daughter. A girl like Mariah. She didn't marry Chief Nadazi for love, Dibia whispered to Mama Ojeki. She married him to get to the child. It was always about the child. And now, the bond was nearly complete. Mariah's spirit, still trapped in the form of a fish, had begun calling to others. It started with animals. Then the dreams of the villagers. Then, most dangerously, it began affecting the children. 4 children in the village woke up screaming from the same nightmare, drowning in a river while a girl with fish eyes whispered their names. They stopped eating. They stopped sleeping. One nearly walked into the river in the middle of the night. The curse was spreading. And Serafina was nowhere to be found. She had left the compound. Disappeared into the forest for days. But on the 7th night, the trees trembled. Thunder cracked without rain. The river overflowed, flooding the path to the market square. And Serafina returned, pregnant. When spirits take root in the womb of the living, something unnatural is born. And when the river itself begins to boil, it is no longer a curse. It is war. Serafina returned from the forest at dawn, barefoot, her white wrapper drenched in dew and mystery. Her belly, once flat, now swelled, visibly marked with strange, dark symbols, like tattoos that shimmered in the morning light. No one saw her walk through the village. They only found her the next morning, seated calmly in the center of her compound, smiling, her hands resting on her stomach as if she had just been chosen by the gods themselves. The air around her felt different, heavier, charged with energy like the sky before lightning. Birds stopped flying above her roof. Ants fled their hills. The goats tied nearby strangled themselves on their ropes, trying to run. Dibia Okonkwo was summoned. He stood before Serafina, his eyes filled with dread. "That thing you carry does not belong to this world," he said. But Serafina only laughed, her voice soft and strange. "It belongs to both. And when it is born, the river will no longer need a mouth to speak. It will walk." That night, the river did something no one had ever seen before. It reversed. The current, always flowing west, began flowing east, backward, as if time itself had been wounded. Mariah's fish form appeared again, but not alone. Dozens of fish with glowing eyes circled her, creating a ring of light in the water. Their scales shimmered like the stars, and the villagers gathered in silence at the riverbank, drawn by an invisible force. Then, from within the ring, Mariah rose halfway out of the water, her form flickering between girl and fish, spirit and flesh. And for the first time, her voice came through. "She has taken what is not hers," Mariah cried. "But I am not finished. The river chose me, and now it has given me power." The villagers fell to their knees. She pointed toward the sky. Lightning cracked. Then she looked at Dibia Okonkwo, and her voice grew deeper, fused with an ancient presence. "There is one way to stop her. But it will cost more than blood." That night, in the shrine, Okonkwo and Mama Ojeki read from the oldest scrolls under burning palm oil lamps. The words trembled on the page. "If a spirit woman of the river binds herself to a child, only the blood of her lover can break the bond. The sacrifice must be made under a moonless sky, at the mouth of the river, where the current meets the soil. Chief Nadazi. He would have to die, by his own daughter's spirit, to stop the child from being born. But he was too weak now, barely breathing. The next moonless night was in 3 days. And Serafina was preparing for the birth. To end a curse, a child must become more than just spirit, she must become vengeance. 3 days passed like shadows. No sun. No birdsong. The air in Umuokiri tasted of iron and salt, as if the river itself was bleeding. On the 3rd day, the moon disappeared. Even before night fell, the village felt it, an eerie emptiness in the sky, like an unseen eye had closed above them. The animals wailed. Babies cried without reason. Fire refused to light in some homes. That evening, Chief Nadazi woke from his fevered silence. His voice cracked like dry leaves as he spoke to Dibia Okonkwo, who sat beside him with the scrolls in hand. "I knew, she wasn't from here," he whispered. "But I was too lonely, too broken. Mariah tried to warn me. Now I must give what I once failed to protect." Tears fell from his sunken eyes. "Tell her I'm sorry." Okonkwo nodded slowly. But it wouldn't be him who delivered the message. At the river's edge, as the villagers gathered, the water glowed again. This time, brighter, as though the moon had hidden behind the river itself. A deep hum filled the air. Then, Mariah rose. No longer just a girl or a fish, but a radiant spirit, her skin glowing blue-green, her eyes twin orbs of ancient light. Her hair flowed like water, and around her hovered the other watcher spirits, those bound by curses, victims of forgotten sins. She stepped onto the riverbank barefoot, her voice shaking the leaves on the trees. Serafina has defied the laws of life and death. She carries a child that must never be born. The crowd trembled. Some fainted. Others wept. Dibia Okonkwo stepped forward. "To break the curse, we need your father's blood, willing, on the sacred soil." Mariah's glow dimmed. "He didn't throw me into the river," she said, voice breaking. "He was weak. But he didn't push me." Okonkwo bowed his head. "The river does not care about intention. Only balance." Just then, the earth shook. From the sacred forest, Serafina appeared, her belly now pulsing with unnatural movement, like something inside her was pressing against her skin from all directions. Her eyes glowed red. Her feet left no prints on the soil. She raised one hand, and the river froze mid-flow. Completely still. Silent. "You won't touch him," she hissed. "The child is nearly here. With his birth, the human world will kneel to the deep." Mariah looked at her. "You took everything from me. But I'm not the child you threw away anymore." And she lifted her hand. From behind her, the spirits of the water surged forward, glowing, ancient, powerful. The sky darkened even more. Then, Chief Nadazi walked out from the crowd. His body was shaking, but he stood tall. He faced Serafina, then turned to Mariah. "If my blood will end this, then take it. Let my soul find peace, through my daughter's hand." Mariah sobbed. The river began to churn. Serafina screamed, her voice twisting into 1,000 overlapping tones. "No." But it was too late. Mariah stepped forward, her spirit hand glowing with light and sorrow, and touched her father's forehead. His eyes closed peacefully. He fell, like a leaf on water. And the river swallowed his body with no sound. Serafina screamed. Her belly split open, not with blood, but with black water. The child, half-formed and flickering between worlds, shrieked as the spirits of the river dragged it back into the deep. Her body cracked. Split. Melted. And with a final, bone-rattling scream, she was gone. Silence. Then, the river flowed again. Forward. The village of Umuokiri awoke the next morning with a silence that felt holy. The air was light, the birds returned, and the river, once a place of dread, now flowed with gentle calm. The water had returned to its natural path, and fish danced near the surface again. For the first time in months, children laughed. But one thing remained missing. Mariah. Her spirit had vanished after the final battle. Not faded, not buried, vanished, like mist in sunlight. And though the villagers honored her with 7 days of mourning and celebration, no one had seen her since she laid her father's soul to rest. Dibia Okonkwo knew better. "She's not gone," he whispered to Mama Ojeki one evening, as they lit incense beside the shrine. "She's in between, no longer tied to flesh, but not yet at peace." And he was right. Mariah opened her eyes to darkness, not the darkness of night, but deep water. Yet she could breathe. She floated in a vast, glowing space, filled with echoes and broken whispers. Around her drifted faces, some she recognized, others long forgotten by time. The spirits of the drowned. The betrayed. The unburied. One voice rose above them all. "Daughter of justice, your task is not yet done." From the depths swam a figure cloaked in gold and silver scales. Her eyes burned like twin lanterns beneath the sea. She was Ikenwanyi, the serpent goddess of the forgotten waters. The mother of the river spirits. "You have unbound the curse," Ikenwanyi said. "But you have touched the power of both spirit and sacrifice. The land will call you, but so will the deep." Mariah bowed her head. "I only wanted to be whole again." The goddess circled her slowly. "Then choose, return to the land and live as a guardian between worlds, or remain, and become one of us." Mariah hesitated. Her heart remembered the mango trees, her late mother's voice, the warmth of sun on skin, but also the injustice she had suffered, and the spirit still wandering without voice or vengeance. She made her choice. On the 7th day, as the villagers completed their final dance of thanksgiving, a little boy named Tobchukwu ran screaming from the river. "She's back. The fish girl is back." Everyone ran to the bank. There, standing at the edge of the water, barefoot and glowing, was Mariah. But she looked different. Her eyes shimmered like moonlight on water. Her voice echoed when she spoke. And around her neck, she wore a pendant shaped like a serpent swallowing its tail. "I have returned," she said, "but I am no longer just a child. I carry the river within me now." Dibia Okonkwo stepped forward. "What are you, child?" Mariah smiled softly. "I am the voice of the forgotten. The shield of the innocent. The first daughter of justice." She turned to the river. "And I am not alone." From the shadows of the water, other spirit children began to rise. Some human. Some half-formed. All glowing. The villagers fell to their knees. Since Mariah's return, Umuokiri was no longer just a village, it had become sacred ground. People came from neighboring towns, drawn by the tale of the fish daughter, the girl who died and rose again. They brought offerings, prayers, sick children, and whispers of their own curses. And Mariah, she listened. She touched a blind man's forehead, and he saw for the first time in 12 years. She placed a bowl of river water under a barren woman's feet, and the woman conceived that same moon. She whispered into a deaf girl's ear, and the child screamed from the sudden noise of the world. But not all were grateful. Far away, deep in the swamps beyond River Niger, a coven of dark river priests, long forgotten, gathered in fury. They wore masks carved from deadwood, and their leader, Anna Dyke, a woman with gray dreadlocks and eyes like ink, struck the ground with her staff. "The girl has disturbed the pact. The Serafina was one of ours. Meant to bear the child that would reopen the gates between water and flame." One of the priests hissed, but the girl ended the bloodline. Anna Dyke smiled. Or so she thinks. The river has many daughters. If one fails, another shall rise. Mariah began to change. Her body no longer needed food. Her hair moved as though it floated in water, even in dry harmattan wind. She could hear things others couldn't, prayers from faraway lands, and the murmur of secrets beneath the earth. She began having visions. Dark rivers. Burning forests. A child born with silver eyes, not from Serafina, but from another, somewhere in the swamps, already growing, already chosen. Dibia Okonkwo called her into the shrine. Child, you have become something this world has never seen. But the war you won was only the beginning. There are forces older than justice, and they are coming. Mariah touched the soil beneath the shrine. She felt it tremble. That night, Ikenwanyi appeared again in Mariah's dream. This time, not in glory, but in agony. Her golden scales were torn, her eyes flickering. They have awakened the old priestess. Anna Dyke seeks to undo your work. She walks with a blade that kills even spirits. And she will not stop until the river runs red. Mariah stood firm. Let her come. I'm not afraid. But Ikenwanyi shook her head slowly. You will be. Because to stop her, you must destroy another child. Mariah's breath caught in her throat. Another? A baby born under cursed rain, bearing the mark of water and fire. An innocent. But if it lives, the door will open. And your world will drown. Mariah woke up with tears in her eyes. The stars outside blinked as if warning her. And in the distance, from the swamps far beyond the river's reach, a drumbeat began, slow, steady, and full of wrath. The final battle was coming. And this time, the river would not choose sides. The night was unusually warm. The kind of warmth that presses against your skin, like a fever rising in the sky. Even the river seemed to hold its breath, its current slow and thick. Mariah stood at the edge of the water, her eyes scanning the trees. She could feel it, the shift. The soil beneath her feet had changed. Something ancient and unwelcome was crossing into the land. Not with armies. Not with thunder. But with a child. At dawn, she came. A boat unlike any ever seen floated down the river. It moved against the current, wrapped in black mist, and covered in skull carvings. Inside it stood Anna Dyke, tall, ageless, terrifying. And in her arms, a baby. The crowd that had gathered at the riverbank gasped. The child had silver eyes, just like in Mariah's vision. And on its tiny shoulder was the mark of two intersecting circles, the ancient symbol of spirit and flame. Mariah stepped forward, the villagers parting like grass in the wind. Anna Dyke smiled. You look like your mother, she said. But you carry more than her fire. You carry fear. I can smell it. Mariah didn't respond. Her eyes were locked on the baby, peaceful, yawning, unaware of the storm it carried inside. What do you want? Mariah asked. Anna Dyke held the child up like an offering. This child will open the gate Serafina could not. Its blood is pure. Its body is strong. The river knows it. The earth feels it. Kill it now, and the curse ends forever. Or let it live, and watch your world burn. The crowd gasped. Kill a baby? Mama Ojeki whispered, horrified. Mariah's hands trembled. She could feel the power in the child. Raw. Unshaped. But not yet evil. Not yet anything. It hasn't done anything, she whispered. It doesn't even know its name. Anna Dyke stepped closer. It doesn't need to know. It is a vessel. And soon, it will not be alone. Dibia Okonkwo emerged from the shrine, holding a sacred dagger. A blade made from obsidian and sealed with the blood of 10 generations. If the girl will not do it, he said, someone must. Mariah held out her hand. Give it to me. Okonkwo hesitated. The crowd held their breath. She took the dagger and walked slowly to the child. Her eyes never left its silver gaze. Then, she knelt. And whispered something no one expected. You don't deserve death. You deserve choice. She stood, turned to Onodike, and declared. I will not kill an innocent. If power lies in this child, I will raise it to protect, not destroy. But if you try to take it again, I will return your bones to the bottom of the river. Onodike's face twisted in rage. The skies blackened. The wind howled. But then, the river rose, and spoke. A voice older than time, rolling like thunder, echoing from the deep. The girl has chosen. And so, the balance remains. Onodike's boat shattered into mist. She screamed as she was dragged into the river's belly, her cries fading into silence. The baby fell into Mariah's arms. It smiled. Mariah placed the child in a sacred basket woven from palm and sealed with charms. She named him Tari, meaning, hope has returned. And the people sang until dawn. 15 years later. Umuokiri had changed. The once quiet village had grown into a thriving sanctuary, a place where people came not just to heal, but to learn. The river was no longer feared, it was honored. The people built shrines, told stories, and passed down the tale of the fish girl who defied a curse. At the heart of it all stood Mariah. She hadn't aged. Her skin still shimmered faintly, her presence calm and strong. She walked the village barefoot, clothed in white, the sacred color of water spirits. Children called her Eneni Miri, Mother of the River. But even she knew. Time was moving. Tari was no ordinary child. By the age of 7, he could speak the ancient languages of the spirits. By 10, he could calm a snake with a whisper. By 15, he dreamed of flames. But he was good. Kind. Curious. He called Mariah Mama, and though she never hid the truth from him, she never treated him like a weapon. She trained him to listen to the river, not command it. To heal, not harm. But the dreams grew stronger. I see a gate, Mama, made of bones and fire. And it calls my name. Mariah would place her hand on his chest. Then we make sure you never answer it. One evening, the river turned red, not from blood, but from sunset, more brilliant than ever before. Mariah knew what it meant. She took Tari to the riverbank, just as she had once risen from it. My time is ending, my son. The river chose me to stop a curse. But you must guide a future. Tari's eyes filled with tears. Are you leaving me? Mariah smiled. I'm not leaving. I'm returning. She stepped into the river. The waters parted gently as she walked in. Fish swam in patterns around her. Her body shimmered brighter with every step. You are not a weapon, Tari. You are a bridge. Between fire and water. Between what was, and what could be. He fell to his knees, crying out. But the river embraced her. And then, she was gone. No splash. No sound. Just peace. Tari grew into a man unlike any the land had seen. He didn't become king. He didn't rule from a throne. He wandered, village to village, healing, protecting, and teaching. They called him, the flame that does not burn. And every time a river turned violent, or a curse returned, or a child cried to the sky, Tari would appear, barefoot, his eyes silver and soft, and whisper. The river remembers. And it always did. Mariah was more than a cursed child. She was a tide that turned. A voice that spoke when no one else could. In her sacrifice, a village found its soul. And in the boy she chose to love, the world found its balance. This is not just a story. It is a reminder, even the smallest drop can change the course of a mighty river. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to drop your thoughts and comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share. See you in our next video.